If you're experiencing a chronic illness, such as chronic fatigue syndrome, then that means that you are stuck. But what if, with only a few steps, you can unstuck yourself and move into the direction of healing? So hi, my name is Daniel, and I'm a health coach, and I've coached over 1,000 clients who had chronic fatigue syndrome in the past. And well, things weren't really straightforward, but over time I noticed the stuckness, I noticed the patterns. And in this video, I'd like to talk about 6 simple, steps that you can do to unstuck yourself to move into the direction of healing. So are you ready? Let's start. And the first step is that you need to inform yourself with the mind-body theory, the mind-body connection. And this is extremely scientific. Like, it doesn't get any more scientific or real than this. And a pioneer in this field was Dr. John Sarno. And he discovered that emotions in the unconscious mind are responsible for the limbic brain to create symptoms. Well, in this video, I talk more about how that exactly works. But the thing is that once you've read it, you're still going to doubt. Because is this really true? Someone else says that there is something wrong with your immune system, your mitochondria, your back, your spine, you name it. So every time you have to read this again and again and again to really start to embody this, to really believe this, so that every time that you have doubt, know that it's okay, of course, to have doubt, but also that the entire purpose of the symptom is to distract you from your emotions. Therefore, it does whatever it can to make you obsess about it. It's going to find a symptom that you believe that is there for a justified reason. Yeah, in these brain scans, they can show that the limbic brain can create tiny changes in the body that are reversible to create extreme symptoms. And these symptoms are probably, the most severe symptoms that a human being can experience. So the pain of someone with chronic pain is absolutely horrifying. The fatigue is overwhelming. Then we have nausea, depression, migraines. These are the worst of the worst things that you can experience. But luckily, it's just a mind-body symptom. But this is something that you have to read over and over and over again to finally get that momentum going, that you start trusting the mind-body process. And then we come to the second reason, which is following outdated principles. So if you are a little bit familiar now with the mind-body connection, then a lot of things don't make sense anymore, such as pacing, the baseline, detoxing, boosting the immune system. But these are all things from the past that we were taught that were very, very inefficient and sometimes even harmful. Therefore, my biggest advice to people is to ditch all of these outdated principles and to really start to the root of the problem and to know how to really deal with the mind-body symptoms. And then we come to the third trap that you might be in, and that is that you are avoiding pain. Because if there is an emotion behind your symptoms, then that means that you have an emotional pain inside of you, something very overwhelming. And the brain doesn't really create these symptoms to have fun, It does it to protect you from extreme emotional pain. But unfortunately, our entire species and maybe society is based on avoiding pain and finding pleasure. And that's okay with physical pain. It's good that you don't hurt yourself or that you don't seek to do dangerous stuff with yourself. But when it comes to emotional pain, you can't outrun it. You can't distract from it, because that means that it will stay inside of your body. And these symptoms will make your life so uncomfortable that at one point you just have to look at the underlying pain. There is no other way anymore. But I really underestimated this. When I started doing the coachings, I noticed that a lot of people were not ready to do this, to feel this. And for a very good reason, because, it's overwhelming and it's not nice. And maybe we can say that the mind-body symptoms, such as fatigue and all these other nasty symptoms, are in the short term better and easier to experience than the emotional pain. And therefore, the mind-body symptoms are a short-term strategy that seems to work in the short term. But unfortunately, in the long term, it is completely destroying lives. And we need to stop that. The fourth trap is overthinking. People like to overthink. I think that thinking is overrated, whether you talk about negative thinking or positive thinking. Usually they are a consequence of an emotional state inside of us. And when you have a negative emotional state, then obviously you have a lot of negative thoughts. And you can suppress that with positive thinking. So that's just one more layer of suppression. And I think it's unnecessary, because I would prefer an empty mind over a full mind at all times. But when you have been stressed for a longer period of time, you start to identify with your thoughts. And if you are in the release process and you experience, for example, a moment of bliss after releasing the underlying emotions, having no thoughts whatsoever, you can start to think like, who am I without my thoughts? And you can create an identity around this entire process. And that makes it harder. For example, in the past, when I first experienced an empty mind, I thought that I was enlightened. And instead of enjoying that, I started making videos about how enlightened I was. And I think a part of that was the need to be seen. And that's an emotional need as well, because I felt very unseen, because I was just getting started, with my process. But also overthinking the emotional releases, making it very complicated, making it very difficult. And the thing is that it's not. But thinking is a way to, how can I say this? To not feel. And if you want to feel, then, you need to get out of the mind. So that's a crucial step in healing. And therefore, overthinking the release process isn't helpful. The next trap that you might be in is still believing, maybe at an unconscious level, that your emotions are bad. Is anger something good or bad? Is fear bad? Is someone who is ashamed not good enough? Is weakness, for example, is that bad? We judge all these things. We think they are negative. And we had very good reasons to believe that in the past, because basically our caretakers couldn't deal with these emotions, and therefore they were bad for us, for our survival. And in order to survive, maybe from a very childish perspective, we needed to push these emotions away. Anger is dangerous. Fear is not needed. Shame, I don't want to feel that. Loneliness, oh my God, let's seek for distraction outside of myself. And a lot of healing modalities are still about suppressing emotions, but maybe in a more advanced way, not in a childish way, but in a very sophisticated way. And that can make you experience short-term relief. But eventually you would always need to deal with the root cause, which are these emotions. I mean, I can't make it any better than that. And yeah, then these negative beliefs, also partially maybe created by other healing modalities, are actually in the way. And we need to reverse that. That emotions are actually okay. They're the language from your body or from your soul. They're there to protect you. I mean, anger is to protect your boundaries, right? Fear is to not engage yourself in difficult or dangerous situations. So they serve you. But unfortunately, for example, unexpressed anger or fear makes you feel very stressed, because you're basically stuck in the stress response, in the fight or flight response, and you need to complete that. But when you judge that behavior as, not wanted, well, then you're not going anywhere. Then you remain stressed, and the stress is then also the consequence of resisting maybe parts of yourself, maybe your emotions. So stress is always to stay in a state of resistance, and relaxation is always to stay in a state of allowing. And then the sixth trap that you might be in is to still believe, maybe deep down, that something is going to cure you. Something else is coming from the outside. Maybe a magic pill. Maybe a treatment that they're going to develop in 10 years' time. Maybe supplements. Maybe following this protocol. But it's inside of you. No one else can heal you but you. Like, we can show you the way, but you have to do it. And it's not about an effort. It's about the opposite of an effort. So usually when you are in a state of resistance, you are in a state of stress, effort, having to do things, to-do lists. But the opposite is opening up and connecting with the body, feeling, and then the releases will happen naturally. Let me know in the comments what you think of these 6 traps that I see a lot. Of course, they're not the only traps. You might have other traps. And yeah, let me know what you think of it. And please like and subscribe. If you want to find out more, then visit the website releasecfs.com. And I wish you a beautiful healing journey. Bye.